No, but, a lot of people ask me about that and say, what's the secret of Mrs. Brown? And I don't know if there is any secret about Mrs. Brown. She's a bitch.
Picture this. British comedy without Mrs. Brown's boys. Hard to imagine, isn't it? That loud, chaotic, foul-mouthed, but oddly heartwarming show that has had the UK and Ireland laughing for over a decade. Love it or hate it, it became a cultural phenomenon practically overnight when it premiered on BBC One in 2011. And yet, behind the laughs, something else was brewing. Cast members, some of whom had been with Brendan O'Carroll since the earliest stage plays in Ireland, quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, walked away. Fans wondered, whispered, and speculated. Why? Was it personal rifts bubbling beneath the surface? Creative differences clashing behind closed doors? Or was it something much deeper, more personal? The answers are as complex as the family dynamics portrayed on screen. Because Mrs. Brown's Boys wasn't just a sitcom, it was a living, breathing extension of Brendan O'Carroll's life, a family project with messy edges and undeniable charm. From the outside, the show looked like chaos wrapped in humor. A middle-aged woman in a cardigan screaming at her children, insults flying with love, slapstick gags that landed with comic precision, and a cast that somehow made this madness feel warm and familiar. But as the cameras rolled and the live audience laughed, life off stage didn't always follow the same script. Some departures came as shocks, others were whispered over time. Yet each exit changed the show in ways that fans could feel but not always explain. The balance, the chemistry, the familiar rhythm of chaos. Suddenly it was shifted, altered, and made the audience acutely aware that behind the sitcom's laughter, real-life stories were unfolding. In the next few minutes, we're going to take a closer look at those exits. We'll explore the history of Mrs. Brown's Boys, the meteoric rise of the show, and the personal decisions that led key actors to step away. From family members bound by loyalty to performers weighed down by grief and burnout, this is the story of what really happened behind the curtain and how it reshaped one of the UK and Ireland's most watched comedies forever. Before Mrs. Brown's Boys became a household name, it had humble beginnings far from television studios and live broadcasts. In the early 1990s, Brendan O'Carroll was a stand-up comedian and a struggling writer, performing in small Irish theaters and dreaming of something bigger. His inspiration came from the women he knew growing up in Dublin, strong, blunt, and endlessly loving matriarchs who could simultaneously discipline and nurture their families. Out of this vision, Agnes Brown was born, a sharp-tongued, foul-mouthed, fiercely loyal mother with a heart of gold. Agnes's first appearances were not on TV but on the radio, in O'Carroll's plays, and in his self-published book, The Mammy. Her humor was raw, unpolished, and full of life, very much reflective of real Irish households, yet exaggerated enough to become theatrical gold. Interestingly, Brendan never originally intended to play Agnes himself. That opportunity came at the last minute, when the woman cast to play her didn't show up for a live performance. Brendan, ever the performer, threw on a wig and dress and stepped into the role, unknowingly launching what would become a multi-decade phenomenon. Audiences loved her immediately. Agnes Brown was not just funny. She was chaotic, unpredictable, and unafraid to break the fourth wall, acknowledging the audience and blurring the lines between performance and reality. Her humor was cheeky, sometimes crude, yet always grounded in warmth. From small Irish stages, the character traveled across the country, gaining a devoted following of working-class audiences who saw something of their families on stage. Louder, messier, and often accompanied by a pint and a swear word. Over time, O'Carroll's productions became increasingly ambitious, touring not just Ireland but the UK, bringing the same energy of chaos and improvisation. These stage performances were far from polished. Mislines were left in, moments improvised, and jokes often tailored to live audience reactions. The charm of the show was rooted in its imperfection, a deliberate embrace of spontaneity and unpredictability. In 2011, almost 20 years after Agnes Brown first stepped on stage, Mrs. Brown's Boys made its television debut on BBC One. The adaptation retained much of the stage's original style: live audiences, visible production flubs, and frequent direct-to-camera remarks. Critics, however, were less than impressed. They criticized it for being outdated, over-reliant on innuendo, and deliberately cheap in its comedy. Despite that, viewers fell in love. The relatability of the family dynamics, combined with a cast built from O'Carroll's real-life family and friends, his wife Jennifer Gibney as Kathy, his son Danny as Dermot, his daughter Fiona as Maria, and sister Eilish as Winnie, created an undeniable chemistry. As the television show soared, Mrs. Brown's Boys expanded into tours, Christmas specials, DVDs, merchandise, and even a feature film in 2014. Brendan O'Carroll had built not just a character, but an entire comedic empire. Yet, with fame came friction. Real-life family dynamics and personal ambitions began to clash with the demands of a successful television and stage production. Cast departures became inevitable, signaling that even the closest-knit, family-driven shows have limits. Mrs. Brown's Boys became more than a TV show. It became a cultural touchstone. Its humor, unapologetic and chaotic, resonated with audiences across generations. Brendan O'Carroll had captured a particular type of comedy: messy, loud, irreverent, yet somehow comforting. The series consistently drew record audiences, especially during Christmas specials, which became must-watch television. The show's charm came from its ability to combine slapstick, improvisation, and relatable family situations. Viewers laughed at Agnes's outrageous behavior, but also recognized fragments of their own families in the characters' antics. From the bumbling Dermot to the grounded Maria, every character represented a familiar archetype, exaggerated just enough to deliver consistent laughs. Beyond the screen, the live tours became a phenomenon in themselves. Brendan O'Carroll brought the same stage energy from his early days, feeding off audience reactions and improvising when necessary. The shows traveled from packed arenas in Ireland and the UK to Australia, drawing fans eager to witness the chaos firsthand. Critics often dismissed the show as lowbrow, but fans didn't care. The connection between the cast and their audience was undeniable, and it created a loyal, almost cult-like following. Mrs. Brown's Boys didn't just entertain, it became part of daily life, sparking catchphrases, merchandise, and even a film adaptation in 2014. Though the movie received mixed reviews, it reinforced the brand's cultural footprint. However, the show's success also magnified personal pressures. Maintaining the energy of a live tour while filming television episodes was grueling. The closeness of the cast, many of whom were family, meant that personal tensions could quickly spill over. Friendships were tested, family bonds strained, and the weight of expectation sometimes became unbearable. It was during this period of heightened fame that the first signs of major cast departures began to appear, signaling that life behind the camera was more complex than the laughter suggested. As Mrs. Brown's Boys continued its upward trajectory, the pressures of fame began to manifest behind the scenes. Family members, longtime friends, and close collaborators all faced the reality that being part of the show was not just a job, it was a lifestyle. Long hours on set, demanding tours, and constant public scrutiny created an environment ripe for tension. While the chemistry on screen appeared effortless, off-screen relationships were tested. Small disagreements could become magnified when working under such intense conditions, and personal lives often collided with professional obligations. The first major departures were subtle, sometimes unannounced, leaving fans confused and speculating about what could possibly drive someone to leave such a beloved show. Change was inevitable. Even a family show built on loyalty and long-standing. Relationships could not escape the realities of human emotion and ambition. These exits, while personal, had a ripple effect on the series, altering the established dynamics and challenging the cast to adapt to new realities. One of the earliest and most significant departures was Fiona O'Carroll, who played Maria Brown. Maria was Agnes's grounded, long-suffering daughter-in-law, the calm in the chaos, the emotional anchor in a household defined by slapstick and chaos. Fiona was not just a cast member. She was Brendan O'Carroll's real-life daughter and had been part of the Mrs. Brown universe since the early 1990s stage plays. When Fiona announced in 2022 that she would not join the live stage tour, fans were stunned. Her presence had been a constant for decades. In interviews, Fiona explained that the decision was deeply personal. "I felt like I was living someone else's story," she said. She wanted space to write her own narrative, prioritize her family, and step away from the character she had grown with for so long. Fiona's departure was met with speculation. Some wondered about family tension or disputes with Brendan. However, both emphasized that their relationship remained strong. Brendan voiced his support publicly. "She's my daughter first, not just Maria," he said. Maria's absence shifted the show's balance, making it feel slightly more unhinged without her grounding presence. Fiona has since focused on family life, occasionally appearing in interviews but not returning to acting full-time. Rory Cowan's exit in 2017 shocked fans. Playing the flamboyant Rory Brown, he brought color, wit, and infectious energy to the show. Rory began working behind the scenes as Brendan's publicist and later stepped into the role of Agnes's son on stage, eventually becoming a television staple. His departure was personal rather than professional. Rory had spent years caring for his aging mother while maintaining the grueling schedule of filming and touring. After her death, he reassessed his life. In interviews, he admitted that he was no longer enjoying the show. "I was sad on the show. I didn't enjoy it. I needed to go." His exit was quietly handled, but the recasting of Rory to Damien McKiernan could not replicate the same chemistry. Rory later took on new projects, including Fair City and his memoir, Mrs. Cowan's Boy, reflecting on life, family, and identity. Gary Hollywood, who played Dino Doyle, the flamboyant hairdresser and Rory's on-screen partner, became one of the most talked-about departures. Dino's charisma, humor, and chemistry with Rory made him a fan favorite. Gary had been part of the series since its earliest TV specials, but tensions regarding character development, scheduling conflicts, and creative decisions led to his eventual exit. Fans noticed the change immediately, as Dino's absence altered the dynamic of the ensemble, leaving a gap in the show's comic rhythm and overall energy. Fans and media speculated endlessly about why these actors left. Was it personal rifts, creative differences, or simple burnout? Each departure had a different story, yet a common thread ran through all: the difficulty of balancing personal lives with the demands of a hugely successful show. For Fiona, it was self-discovery. For Rory, grief. And for Gary, creative challenges. After leaving, these actors pursued new projects or focused on family. Fiona stepped back from the spotlight. Rory explored dramatic acting and memoir writing, and Gary sought creative freedom elsewhere. Each departure, though significant, allowed them to reclaim their personal narratives. Mrs. Brown's Boys endures as a testament to bold, chaotic, unapologetic comedy. While cast departures altered its chemistry, the show's legacy is secure, a celebration of humor, family, and resilience. Behind the laughter, real human stories unfolded, reminding fans that even in the most joyous settings, life's challenges remain. Love it or hate it, Mrs. Brown's Boys changed the landscape of British and Irish comedy forever. One of the hidden strengths of Mrs. Brown's Boys lay not just in its jokes, but in the intricate dynamics between characters. Agnes Brown, at the center of the chaos, relied heavily on the balance provided by her children and neighbors. Maria, the calm, rational daughter-in-law, often acted as the anchor, tempering Agnes's wild antics with a sense of realism. Rory Brown brought flamboyance and sparkle, while Dino Doyle added a playful charm and mischievous energy. Each character filled a unique space in the household, and the departure of any one of them sent ripples through the ensemble. Behind the scenes, this dynamic mirrored real life. Brendan O'Carroll carefully wove his family and friends into roles that reflected their personalities. This authenticity made the humor richer but also more fragile. When Fiona left, the warmth Maria brought was suddenly missing. When Rory departed, the spark that had elevated comic timing and improvisation dimmed. Cast members often described rehearsals as both chaotic and electric, with flubbed lines, ad-libs, and unexpected interactions creating moments that were sometimes funnier than the scripted jokes. The live audience aspect amplified this dynamic. Actors could feed off each other's energy, improvising in real time, which was particularly challenging when beloved characters exited the show. Even small gestures, a look exchanged between Agnes and Maria, or a quip shared between Rory and Dino, carried weight and drew laughter that no script could fully capture. With departures, some of these nuances were inevitably lost, forcing remaining cast members to adapt, often rewriting the rhythm of scenes on the fly. In essence, the relationships between characters weren't just storytelling tools. They were the emotional core of the series. Audiences connected to the show because it felt real, messy, chaotic, and yet grounded in love. Behind the laughter, the actors' bonds and their shared history made every scene resonate in ways that pure performance alone could not. Losing one of these characters wasn't just a shift in casting, it was a change in the heartbeat of the show itself. Fans of Mrs. Brown's Boys are notoriously passionate, and departures of key cast members never went unnoticed. Social media erupted every time news of a leaving actor broke, with posts ranging from shock and disappointment to supportive messages of understanding. For many, Maria Brown represented stability. Rory Brown symbolized humor and exuberance. Dino Doyle added flair and camaraderie. Removing these characters left an emotional void, one that fans discussed openly in forums, comment sections, and fan groups. Petitions circulated, imploring Brendan O'Carroll and producers to reconsider or recast carefully. Some fans analyzed every episode after a departure, dissecting the subtle changes in chemistry and comic timing. Critics sometimes ridiculed this intensity, but for viewers, the attachment went beyond entertainment. The characters had become like family members, and losing them was akin to losing a familiar presence in daily life. Interestingly, fan reactions were not uniformly negative. Many expressed admiration for the actors' personal choices, recognizing that life beyond the show required sacrifices. Messages of support, hashtags celebrating self-care and personal growth trends began to appear alongside nostalgic posts, remembering favorite episodes and gags. Fans debated whether replacements could ever capture the same magic. And while some eventually embraced the new actors, a persistent sense of nothing will ever be quite the same lingered. The departures also sparked reflection within the fan community. Viewers began to appreciate the actors' contributions in new ways, discussing the depth they added to the series beyond laughs. Fan-created content, from tribute videos to memes, kept the characters alive, cementing their legacy in the show's history. In many ways, the audience itself became a custodian of memory, celebrating the personalities that had defined the series while also accepting the inevitability of change. Comedy, as effortless as it seems on screen, often comes with hidden personal costs. For the cast of Mrs. Brown's Boys, the combination of live stage tours, long filming schedules, and family dynamics created an environment that was as emotionally taxing as it was entertaining. Actors spoke openly about burnout, fatigue, and the challenge of balancing professional obligations with personal lives. Rory Cowan's experience exemplifies this reality. Caring for his aging mother for over a decade while maintaining a demanding touring and filming schedule left him emotionally drained. The elation of performing on stage and delivering comedic brilliance was gradually replaced by grief and exhaustion. His eventual departure was less about dissatisfaction with the show and more about reclaiming his own mental and emotional well-being. Similarly, Fiona O'Carroll, despite her deep ties to the character of Maria, recognized that continuing in the role could no longer coexist with her responsibilities as a mother and her desire to define her own story. Even Gary Hollywood faced challenges that went beyond personal burnout. Creative differences, disagreements about character arcs, and the pressures of maintaining consistent comic timing contributed to his decision to step away. The intensity of performing in front of live audiences, where mistakes were immediately visible, added another layer of stress. Each actor's choice to leave was ultimately rooted in the universal human need for balance and autonomy. A reminder that comedy, though joyful to watch, demands resilience behind the scenes. Recasting beloved characters is never easy, and Mrs. Brown's Boys faced significant hurdles when trying to maintain continuity. Damian McKiernan, stepping into the role of Rory Brown, for example, required careful adjustment from both cast and audience. While Damian brought his own interpretation and charm to the character, fans couldn't help but compare him to Rory. Cowan, whose vibrant energy had become synonymous with the role. Writers and Brendan O'Carroll had to rework scripts and dynamics, often tailoring dialogue to suit new actors while preserving the core humor. Subtle shifts in interactions, a pause here, a facial expression there, affected comedic timing and audience perception. Even with the most skilled actors, replicating years of established chemistry proved nearly impossible. This challenge underscored how integral the original cast was not just to performance, but to the very heartbeat of the show. Despite cast departures, the legacy of Mrs. Brown's Boys remains untarnished. Iconic episodes such as Agnes's infamous birthday disasters or Christmas specials filled with slapstick chaos continue to captivate audiences. Rory's flamboyant entrances, Dino's witty comebacks, and Maria's grounded reactions created scenes that became cultural touchstones. Memes, quotes, and fan tributes immortalized these moments, ensuring that even as actors left, their impact endured. The show's influence on British and Irish comedy is undeniable, inspiring other sitcoms to embrace chaotic humor and breaking the fourth wall in new, innovative ways. The exits highlighted the importance of self-care and personal growth. Fiona's choice reminded audiences that even beloved roles should not overshadow personal identity, while Rory's decision emphasized the emotional toll of caregiving and professional demands. Brendan's reflections showcased the value of understanding and support within a family-driven production. These lessons extend beyond the show. Work-life balance, creative autonomy, and emotional health are as crucial in comedy as they are in any profession. The show's future remains promising. Tours, specials, and potential new cast members indicate that the series continues to evolve. Brendan O'Carroll's careful management ensures that the core spirit remains intact, even as fresh faces join the ensemble. Fans remain hopeful that upcoming projects will honor the legacy while keeping the humor vibrant and unpredictable. Mrs. Brown's Boys is more than a sitcom. It is a cultural phenomenon, a celebration of messy family life, and a testament to bold, unapologetic humor. While cast departures shifted dynamics and challenged continuity, the show's heart remains intact. Through chaos, laughter, and the occasional tear, it reminds audiences that comedy is as much about resilience, connection, and love as it is about punchlines. Love it or hate it, Mrs. Brown's Boys has left an indelible mark on British and Irish comedy, proving that sometimes the loudest, messiest, and most unconventional stories are the ones that endure. Agnes Brown is the heart and soul of the show, and her evolution is a story in itself. Brendan O'Carroll first introduced her on stage in the early 1990s as a rough-around-the-edges Irish mammy, loud, blunt, and always ready with a quip. Over the years, she transformed from a small-time stage character into a national icon, a figure whose chaotic energy and sharp humor made audiences laugh and gasp in equal measure. When Mrs. Brown's Boys transitioned to television in 2011, Agnes retained her original stage charm, the wardrobe, the comedic timing, the direct address to the camera, but with added depth. Brendan's portrayal highlighted her heart of gold beneath the bluster. Whether she was yelling at Dermot, admonishing Maria, or offering advice with a side of sass, Agnes remained the anchor in a household defined by chaos. As live tours grew more ambitious, Agnes had to adapt again. Performing in arenas meant interacting with thousands of fans, improvising lines, and balancing physical comedy with emotional beats. Each iteration of Agnes Brown maintained the essence of Brendan's original creation, proving that a character, born out of necessity, a last-minute substitution in a stage play, could evolve into an enduring symbol of Irish comedy. Her evolution wasn't just about humor. It was about relatability. Despite the exaggeration, audiences saw parts of their own mothers, grandmothers, or aunties in Agnes. Her growth mirrored the show itself, chaotic yet grounded, comedic yet emotionally resonant, old school yet remarkably timeless. While Agnes dominated the screen, the supporting characters gave the show its depth and balance. Kathy, Dermot, Maria, and Winnie weren't just side players. They were the stabilizing forces in the Brown household. Kathy's feisty nature, Dermot's awkward charm, Maria's patience, and Winnie's neighborly meddling created a rich tapestry of comedic interaction. Behind the scenes, these characters often drove the improvisation that made Mrs. Brown's Boys unique. A missed line or a flubbed prop would become an opportunity for quick wit, with actors feeding off one another in real time. The chemistry wasn't just written. It was lived, honed over decades of stage performances and television filming. Fans often cite the ensemble's balance as a key reason the show succeeded. Each character had a role in grounding or amplifying the chaos. When one departed, such as Fiona or Rory, the absence was immediately felt. The remaining actors had to adjust, sometimes rewriting scenes on the spot or adding new dimensions to their performances. Yet, even amidst change, the supporting cast maintained the show's humor and warmth, proving that the Brown family was more than just Agnes. It was a community, both on and off the screen. Mrs. Brown's Boys didn't just resonate in Ireland and the UK. It captured audiences across the globe. Tours to Australia, Europe, and other regions brought Brendan, his family, and the cast to thousands of live fans. Audiences unfamiliar with Irish slang or customs still found the humor accessible. Slapstick, exaggeration, and universal family dynamics bridged cultural gaps. International audiences responded enthusiastically, attending shows in packed arenas and sharing their experiences online. Memes, clips, and fan content spread across continents, making the show a global talking point. Yet departures like Fiona, Rory, or Gary affected international tours as well. Certain storylines needed adjustments, while actors had to step into roles in front of new audiences who hadn't experienced the original chemistry. Even so, the show's humor translated. Agnes's charm, chaos, and warmth remained universal, showing that a well-crafted character, even with localized nuances, can resonate worldwide. Maintaining a live audience sitcom on television was no small feat. Directors, writers, and crew faced constant challenges, from camera placements to timing actors' cues. Brendan O'Carroll's insistence on preserving stage conventions, visible flubs, ad-libs, and direct-to-camera jokes required a unique approach to production. Cast departures made this even more challenging. Writers had to adjust scripts, rework character dynamics, and ensure comedic timing wasn't lost. Crew members often described episodes as living performances, with the unpredictability of both the actors and live audience reactions shaping each take. In this environment, adaptability was crucial. and the team learned to embrace chaos as part of the creative process. The Mrs. Brown's Boys brand expanded beyond television. Books, DVDs, merchandise, and the 2014 feature film, Mrs. Brown's Boys the Movie, ensured the show reached fans in multiple formats. While critical reception for the film was mixed, box office success in Ireland and the UK demonstrated the series' loyal following. Spin-offs maintained the humor and chaos, even as cast members left. DVDs captured live performances, preserving improvisation and iconic moments. Merchandise allowed fans to bring a piece of the show into their homes, reinforcing the cultural impact and sustaining the brand despite behind-the-scenes changes. Mrs. Brown's Boys earned multiple awards, including BAFTA wins, nominations, and international recognition for its innovative approach to sitcom comedy. Brendan O'Carroll's creation was celebrated for pushing boundaries while staying true to family-centered humor. Even amidst cast departures, the show's accolades reinforced its cultural significance. Fans, critics, and industry professionals recognized the ensemble's unique chemistry, improvisational brilliance, and enduring appeal, solidifying its place in comedy history. Remaining and former cast members frequently reflect on their time with the show. Fiona O'Carroll emphasizes personal growth. Rory Cowan speaks about balancing grief and performance, and Gary Hollywood discusses creative freedom. All acknowledge the family-like bonds that existed on set. Interviews reveal both pride in their work and the challenges of maintaining personal identity within a beloved franchise. Departures, while difficult, were seen as necessary for individual growth, and most former cast members remain supportive of the show and Brendan O'Carroll's vision. Mrs. Brown's Boys has influenced contemporary sitcoms in multiple ways. Its breaking of the fourth wall, embrace of improvisation, and focus on family dynamics set a template for future shows.